Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. I'm Peter Loshak. Today is Friday, May 6th, and we are doing our regular call right now with an SBR contributor, professional handicapper, Ian Cameron, where we take a look at the opening lines for Major League Baseball. Right now, we're taking a look at the opening lines for the games of Saturday, May 7th. Ian Cameron, thanks for being with us. The opening lines are out. 3 interesting games I want to ask you about. The first one is Pitt at St. Louis. Right now, Adam Wainwright starting for St. Louis, and clearly this is not the Adam Wainwright of old that we're dealing with right now. What kind of Adam Wainwright is it? Not exactly sure, but clearly significantly more hittable. And then, on the other side, Locke is a guy who's also hittable, but I'm not sure that at the moment he's significantly more hittable than Wainwright. Obviously, the name value here is heavily favors St. Louis, but I'm wondering if the starting pitching here is maybe is basically a wash. And then in that case, Pitt, as a pretty significant road underdog, would have some value. What do you think? Do you think we expect Wainwright to be more likely than not to get knocked around here?
He's still a bet against guy for me, Peter, as of right now. I mean, we've talked about Adam Wainwright previously in other videos, and it's just a guy that at 34 years of age has not really been able to recapture the magic he had as a premier pitcher in Major League Baseball years ago, earlier in his career with the St. Louis Cardinals. And the proof is basically in the results. He's been a little bit better in his last 2 starts against Arizona and Philly. St. Louis winning both of those games, but got a ton of run support from the Cardinals in both of those games. His strikeout numbers are still not great. He's still giving up the home run ball, which is a bit of an issue. He's had at least 1 walk now in just about every start this season. So it's a major issue right now, Adam Wainwright. He's trying to work through some control issues. He's trying to find a groove. And right now, to me, he hasn't quite found it. When you look at the way he pitched earlier this season against Pittsburgh, 3 runs allowed on 6 hits and 6 innings of work at Pittsburgh. Earlier this season, 3 walks and 3 strikeouts in those 6 innings, so not a great performance from him. Pittsburgh should be very familiar with him now, getting a second look at him this season, so I think they should be able to have some plate success here. Jeff Locke, on the other hand, he's been a little bit of a surprise at times for the Pittsburgh Pirates. 4 of his first 5 starts have been quite good. He's allowed 3 runs or less in 4 of those 5 outings. His real one bad outing was at San Diego. Could you believe it? Of all teams, 8 runs allowed in just 3 innings of that start. His track record against St. Louis, it's not horrible, but it's not great either. He has given up 3 runs or more in 4 straight starts against St. Louis, dating back to 2014, faced them 3 times last year, and Pittsburgh went just 1-2 in those Jeff Locke 3 starts against the Cardinals. So it's an interesting matchup. I'm still not ready to jump in on the Jeff Locke bandwagon here. You are getting a nice price with Pittsburgh, and Adam Wainwright, to me, still more of a bet against guy for me, but the St. Louis lineup has had success against Jeff Locke, and as they say, every lock has a key, and maybe St. Louis has that key here in this matchup.
Yeah, the opening line is a plus 130. And then another game that I want to ask you about that we kind of talk about repeatedly, that we have talked about repeatedly recently, is Baltimore as a home favorite that maybe is not quite as big of a home favorite as they should be. We have Hahn and Wright, Mike Wright, the starting pitchers here, and they both seem, not great, but okay. Maybe you'd give even a slight edge to Wright, but in all other areas, I think you give a pretty significant edge to Baltimore. They're at home, and the opening line, very, very modest, in my opinion, minus 115. I'm thinking maybe Baltimore at minus 115. Maybe we expect that line to close, closer to 130 or something, and maybe to have value right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of either pitcher, to be honest with you. Mike Wright, to me, is just a fringe arm at the major league level. I mean, he's had some glimpses of potential, but really he's been very mediocre through 4 starts this season. Boston, Toronto, Kansas City, and the White Sox. Mike Wright, his numbers not great whatsoever. 5.18 ERA, 14 runs on 25 hits and 24.1 innings of work, 3 home runs allowed. Strikeout numbers are not bad, but the walks are a little bit of an issue for him as well. At Camden Yards so far this season, he's pitched okay, but still, he's a guy with fringe stuff. I think second time, third time through the order, you're going to see hitters have better success at the plate and a better approach against Mike Wright, and it's been proven so far this season early on. Jesse Hahn making his first start of the season last time out against Houston, an Astros team that was in an absolute funk at the plate at the time. I know it was a solid outing, 6.2 innings of work, 3-hit shutout baseball thrown by Jesse Hahn in that start. But I don't see this guy as anything more than an average pitcher at the major league level. He's not really been someone that's really shown me long-term viability as a major league starter. And of course, Baltimore can be a very tough lineup, especially in this ballpark. So maybe if anything in that game, Peter, I'm not big on the side in that game, but maybe we look over the total. We're seeing some 8.5s out there. It's bouncing back and forth. From the overnight lines that I see, we're seeing some 8s and 8.5s, a mixture of both with the total in this game. Might see a little bit of a higher scoring affair. Two pitchers that I'm not exactly trustworthy of at this stage of the campaign.
Okay, sounds good. And then the next game I want to ask about is Arizona at Atlanta. That game will feature one of the top two auto fades right now in terms of starting pitching in the majors. It's Shelby Miller, the other one, of course, being Alfredo Simon, which we talk about every time he starts. And I feel like I bring up Miller every time he starts as well, because it's just every game seems like an auto fade situation. But he's going to get here on the road at Atlanta maybe the easiest assignment that will be possible for him in the majors. So is this again? So is this a spot where we want to jump on that? And then the other side, Tehran, kind of inconsistent, but also a pretty good arm at times. He's had 2 straight excellent 7-inning starts. Question is, Atlanta is awful, but are they good enough to warrant, another auto fade of Shelby Miller? What do you think?
Well, we got Shelby Miller raising money in every single start for the walkathon, because that's been his issue with walks, game in, game out. You got him on one side, and you've got the we can't hit our way out of a wet paper bags on the other side with the Atlanta Braves. Something's got to give here, something. What's it going to be? Is Shelby Miller's going to win out, or is it this putrid Atlanta lineup that a lot of times hasn't been able to hit even mediocre pitching so far this season? What's it going to be? Well, what can I say about Atlanta other than the offense has not been good? 3 runs or less now in 4 of their last 5 games. The same old story for them. If Freddie Freeman ain't hitting, if Nick Markakis ain't hitting, it becomes very, very troublesome for this Atlanta lineup. Not a lot of quality bats in that order behind those 2 guys, and it's just the same old problem for them. Scoring runs is an issue. 7-20 on the season. And how about this home field record for Atlanta? 1-12 here at home at Turner Field. It's an empty ballpark. There's no ambiance. Nobody cares about Atlanta Brave baseball now when they suck this bad. Everybody's just grinning and bearing it and waiting for the new stadium to open at this point. Nobody's excited about this team. Not that they've given them a right to be excited, but the bottom line is, Atlanta's got zero home field edge, none. So you have to factor that in. A 1-12 home record tells you all you need to know about that. And yet here's Atlanta, a favorite. Yeah, that's right. Atlanta, a favorite in this matchup. From a side perspective, just on value alone, the only way I could look is Arizona. Arizona's a much better baseball team, but now the question is, do you want to trust Shelby Miller in this particular scenario? And Shelby Miller, again, coming off, like I've said, an issue where he's walking guys. He had 4 walks, 3 strikeouts in his last start against Colorado. Only lasted 3.2 innings because with all the walks and all the full counts that he had in that start, the pitch count got up to 79 by the 4th inning, and that was enough for Chip Hale, the manager of the Diamondbacks, to say, I've seen enough, go to the bullpen. And that's been just the case all season here for Shelby Miller. He's not lasted past the 6th inning in any of his starts. Walking guys left and right. His walk rate is absolutely horrendous. 19 walks in just 23.1 innings, 8.49 ERA. It's tricky for me. I think Arizona offers the value, but I want no part of Shelby Miller with his issues right now. And at the same time, there's no way I can lay a price with Atlanta as a favorite. Pete, you like your second half bets. You mentioned them before in the past. Maybe you look Arizona second half, wait to see if Shelby Miller can get out of this game and maybe have an advantage late in the game with just the better overall Diamondbacks team, especially their bullpen, over this sorry-ass Atlanta team. Maybe in the latter stages, Arizona could have an edge.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking as well. Sounds good. Ian Cameron, all right, those are the 3 games that I wanted to specifically touch on. Then we got 12 other games from the card, some interesting situations. Dallas Keuchel starting. He is struggling. Chris Sale is making a home start. He's been awesome. And then we have an interesting matchup, Kershaw at Toronto facing R.A. Dickey. Not sure what I think about that one. What else do you have to bring to our attention that might point to possible betting value tomorrow, Ian?
Yeah, I'm going to look at Texas and Detroit on the Saturday board. Early afternoon start at Comerica Park. To me, Mike Pelfrey's as close to an automatic bet against candidate as anybody right now. He's been on a downward trend for multiple starts. It figures to get worse, not better here against Texas. 5.68 ERA this season, even worse in the shorter term, 7.47 ERA for Pelfrey in his last 3 starts. 14 runs on 25 hits allowed in 15.2 innings. More walks than strikeouts in his last 3 starts. He's allowing home runs on 12.5% of all fly balls hit against him. That's not what you want to see in a park like Comerica Park here in Detroit. I know Texas has had struggles offensively, especially on the road, but we've seen the likes of Minnesota rough up Pelfrey. We've seen the likes of Oakland rough up Mike Pelfrey. And I think Texas, certainly, despite their recent struggles on the road to hit, can get to Mike Pelfrey here. A.J. Griffin, on the other hand, has been a bright light for this Texas rotation. 2.32 ERA, however, there are some metrics that point out he's probably going to regress just a little bit. He's the 3.30 FIP, 4.26 xFIP, so there could be some regression on the way for Griffin. That being said, I still expect him to have the better of it from a starting pitching perspective here over Mike Pelfrey. I like side and total in this game. I'll recommend Texas laying the short price on the road and also over the total. I think Texas can win a high-scoring game there. And the other one I'm going to look at is Milwaukee at Cincinnati. It's 2 of the worst bullpens in Major League Baseball, 2 offenses in good form, 2 starters with question marks. We saw a high-scoring over last night with Alfredo Simon against Chase Anderson. In fact, I like that a lot on a recent video we shot. That one went over the total with ease. I think we've got more ingredients for more runs here. I mean, Jimmy Nelson is the one concern in this over recipe, I guess you could say, because Jimmy Nelson has been pretty solid, a 3.05 ERA for Milwaukee. He definitely has some upside as a starting pitcher in the majors, but I'm not sure if pitching in this park and this Cincinnati lineup is a great fit for him. Because Nelson faced the Reds 3 times last season here at Great American Ballpark. He allowed 15 runs on 23 hits in just 13 innings of work in those 3 starts combined. And the home run ball this season for Nelson, it's been a problem for him. So allowed 7 home runs in 38.1 innings pitched. And if you're surrendering home runs and you're having trouble keeping the ball in the park, Cincinnati's not the place you want to be pitching in. So could be a little bit of a tough matchup here for Nelson. Brandon Finnegan, the Reds lefty, is slated to get the start as of right now, slated to return up from the DL after dealing with a hamstring injury. He's got average stuff at best, though. He's been roughed up in recent outings for the Cincinnati Reds. Again, another situation where I don't think Great American Ballpark is a very good fit for Brandon Finnegan, the way he pitches. So Milwaukee, in good current form offensively right now, should be able to hit, and the starters are not likely to go deep into this game, so that brings the 28th ranked Milwaukee and 30th dead last ranked Cincinnati bullpen into play in the latter stages. So these 2 teams should be able to score runs late. You know, Cincinnati's on an incredible streak now where their bullpen has allowed at least a run in 23 straight games. That's hard to believe. That shows you how bad they've been. I think we can get over that total. So I look for runs once again in Cincinnati on Saturday.
Yeah, that game yesterday, I didn't understand it. The first half opened at 5, and then it actually got bet down to 4.5, minus 125, and I was wondering who bet that. I tweeted that out as a play. The first half over 4.5, and it went over in the first inning. So, some money there that has the ability to move lines was dead wrong on that one. I just want to quickly ask you about Texas. Texas, their bats have been a little bit quiet recently in their series at Toronto. They scored 8 runs total in 4 games, but you're not concerned about that. You think that was just somewhat anomalous, and they'll be okay to bet on against Pelfrey?
I think they are still a good lineup. They're going through a funk right now, especially on the road. But I do think they've got the bats. Beltre, Fielder, Shin-Soo Choo. I mean, Andrus can hit a bit. Mitch Moreland. I mean, they've got bats in that lineup that can snap out of this funk. And I think Mike Pelfrey could be the perfect antidote for what is ailing this Texas lineup right now, because Pelfrey's been downright awful, and he's been hit by everybody recently in his last 3 or 4 starts. Like I said, if we see Minnesota and Oakland starting to hit this guy hard, no reason Texas shouldn't, even with their recent offensive struggles.
Right. Ian Cameron, thanks so much. Talk to you again very soon.
Thanks, Peter. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games, and good luck.